Hey, sports fans, welcome to another episode of Sports for All. And today we have as our guest an MMA and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu legend, former UFC middleweight champion, Murilo Bustamante. Hola, Murilo.
Hello, Vince. Thank you for the invitation. I'm super glad to be here.
And Murilo, I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Brian, the godfather Yalung.
Good evening, good evening here. Good morning there. I'm looking forward to having a good conversation with you.
Okay, Brian. Nice to meet you.
Okay, Murilo, let's get right to it. I read I read in your bio that all this fighting started when you experienced bullying at the age of 10. And could you tell us about that?
Yes, uh, I just my oldest brothers they start training before me. The difference between us is almost 10 years. So I was a kid; they were already teenagers. So I followed their paths in sports in general. So first of all, I start surfing, and then later I start jiu-jitsu, but it was the same sport that I used to do. So I used to go to the gym, the academy with them, watch them training, and play around and run inside, bother people as a kid. So then later I start training, kind of a couple months later, I start training jiu-jitsu. But actually at the time I liked surfing more than anything else. And and then I used to go to the academy to train, but I didn't. I used to take serious jiu-jitsu at the time. Only when I was around 14 to 50 years old, they kind of stick with jiu-jitsu. Then I start to compete, and then I became addicted. So when I start competition, I kind of found myself in something that I like it very much. Make me something that was good and make me feel, very well. I was like a, every I think every teenager are very competitor. They like competitions, and I kind of like it very very much. And I used to compete in surfing as well,
Yes.
but I wasn't good. I surfed better, in the ordinary days in a competition because I don't know, maybe the natural uh, situation because the surfer they need waves to the best wave that's gonna help them to score. And jiu-jitsu is more about you and the opponent. So most of the time the best guy will win. So if you can beat somebody better than you must be very smart. And it kind of hooked me when I was a teenager, and it helped me to jiu-jitsu helped me a lot when I was a teenager to have more self-confidence, and uh, it was good, for discipline, for self-confidence, and for it's very good jiu-jitsu for kids and teenagers.
When when you learned jujitsu, did you did you see this bully again? Did you ever see this bully again after you learned how to defend yourself with jujitsu?
Actually, when I was 10, didn't have any bully.
Okay.
I don't know where did you read that, but teenager is very natural. When I was a teenager, people mess each other. So uh, it and then with jujitsu, you gotta self confidence and you know you feel yourself I mean, kids, they bully, in both ways. So kids are bully each other, but jiu-jitsu help kids don't do it. And I have kids class and I always talk about that. And because it's not a good thing for, you know, to do or receive bully. It's not nice both ways. So kids that do it, and I used to do it as well, and it's a kind of back and forth. So I think it's natural uh, to some limits helps a little to understand the world. I think so. You deal with the world. The world is a competitor environment. Is a very. The competition in life is stronger every day. So it helps the kids jiu-jitsu. The competitions help the kids overcome the difficulties, and compete in life as well. So bullies, they show a little bit what life will be for the kids, because life is won't give you everything easy. You have to get it. So, and you have to deal with any kind of person in life. So it just starts. In my point of view, it's not good to for kids in any way. Most of kids that they do bully, they're very insecure. That's why they do. So, and jiu-jitsu gives the self-confidence for them to don't need to prove themselves this way. They're gonna prove themselves competing jiu-jitsu. So, and the kids that receive bully, they kind of prove themselves in jiu-jitsu. They find something that they can do well, and they're gonna give them self-confidence. So they will learn how to deal with bullies easier, I believe.
You've been around the martial art for a very long time, Murilo. From the time you started jiu-jitsu, were there any attempts? Was it ever considered to incorporate a little bit of striking into jiu-jitsu, or did our forefathers or the early fathers of jiu-jitsu made sure that no striking, that this martial art will be purely submission, grappling, and all that?
So I kind of in love with martial arts in general. So jiu-jitsu for me is the best among all the disciplines. We could prove that fighting each other at the time that there was a valitude, that each fighter, they represent their own discipline. There was a kind of pure time. The fighters, most of them, they just knew their own discipline. But I started training boxing when I was 18 years old for pleasure, just for pleasure. Anything else. I didn't plan to become a professional fighter or. Mm. My friends from Jiu-Jitsu Academy, they used to go training boxing, the academy, Nobre Arte Academy from the academy I was training boxing in Rio. I have been training my whole life in this same academy. Same coach, Claudio Coelho. And I was just for fun, just sometimes I hurt my knee, and instead to go to train Jiu-Jitsu, I couldn't train Jiu-Jitsu because of my knee. It was hurt. And then I go training boxing. But I was, just beginning, I wasn't good at all. So I just got a first contact with boxing at 18, 19 years old. But then later, uh, I had my first Vale Tudo fight. It was 1991. I was 24 to 25 years old. And then I started training boxing seriously, kind of engaged. Uh, but because I like martial arts and I believe it's going to help me to fight in Vale Tudo as well. But my goal wasn't become a striker, it was just understand a striking game to make it easy for me to deal with my opponents. My opponents at the time, they were strikers. So, and then training boxing, comfortable, standing, and have more time to work the takedowns. So it really happened. You know, my goal wasn't, at the time wasn't boxing, kind of striking with the strikers. It wasn't my goal. My goal was just feel comfortable and, you know, to approach, make the right approach, use the right timing to take them down. But the fact is that I got addicted to, you know, boxing, and then you know, I had some good moments in my career boxing, so I kind of like boxing a lot. So
Did you or have you did you incorporate other martial arts into your skill set? Have you tried incorporating other martial arts?
yeah, I used to train in judo uh, to help me with the jiu-jitsu. Judo, the training specific takedowns is a standard part of jiu-jitsu. And we train takedowns in jiu-jitsu as well, but I like judo. So I kind of, you know, as I told you, I'm in love of martial arts. I'm a big fan of martial arts, and I believe that the philosophy of martial arts is the best for, you know, for everybody. If, it doesn't matter. Of course, jiu-jitsu is my discipline and kind of my religion. Uh, but I believe that any martial arts that has a strong philosophy, like stick with the philosophy of martial arts, like the values, you know, and the ethical and, you know, teaching discipline, everything the right way on the mat or inside the room, whatever. It's very important, you know, has a lot of important, can make the difference for the students. And it, you know, it's able to change lives, changing my life. So, you know, and then I used to train in martial arts like judo. I trained a lot of judo, and then later I trained jiu-jitsu, boxing. And later when I went to when I signed with the UFC, when it was Zufa management, I started training wrestling. I had contact with wrestling uh, when I was very young, like I was a teenager, because one of the students of my old master, my former master, he was a coach of Greco-Roman, and sometimes he, he, he went to the academy, to our academy, and teach some class of Greco-Roman. So I like it. But I really trained wrestling when I was already a professional fighter. And I like it, you know, I like it, train wrestling. I try a little bit of Muay Thai. So I try to understand the most I can, to learn the most I could, uh, to make my game more solid, you know. So even if I wouldn't use the skills, the techniques, I could understand what's going on, the intention of my opponent. So it helped me a lot.
All right, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. I just like to ask Murilo. During your time, you were considered one of the best middleweights in mixed martial arts. I don't know if you're keeping tabs with what's happening right now, but can you kind of describe the difference between the fights then and the fights now?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I have been watching some fights. I'm not kind of a guy that watch every UFC or Bellator or One FC or Rising. You know, it kind of. I like to watch good fights. So even sometimes the pre-card, some fighters, you know, I can find some good fights with fighters that I even don't know them, just beginners, like guys that making the debut in UFC. Sometimes they do a great job, but I know what's going on, so uh, I kind of I came from a time that each fighter represents you know his own discipline. So it was a value to the time. And then later, I kind of I leave the transition to MMA. You know, then fighters start to training a lot jiu-jitsu around the world because jiu-jitsu proved itself. It was the best discipline. And but I believe that when I arrived as a professional in the big events, I was already ready in the right mentality to learn the most I could. So I had a very good knowledge. So I could, striking with the strikers. I could wrestling with the best wrestlers. So because I try to make my game very solid always. I prepare myself at the time to fight. Doesn't matter where the fight could happen. You know, sometimes it was very hard to take the opponent down. So then it was a fast fight. You know, at the time it was fast 5 minutes, 3 rounds. So for jiu-jitsu fighters, the best would be a longer fight. That people get tired and then it will end on the ground. Most of the time it will end on the ground. And then the jiu-jitsu fighters will take advantage of that. Would take advantage. So nowadays, I believe that some fighters they make they concern very much to win round by round. So they not step in the ring to submit and knock people down. So I believe that was the mentality of my time. Most of the fighters they just step in the ring to beat the opponent. Uh, but then it became a sport, a lot of money involved, and so sponsorships and the mentality changed a little bit for some fighters, but not everybody. You can see some fighters that they still step on the ring, on the octagon, on the cage, whatever, to really beat the opponent down. So kind of, uh, sometimes nowadays when the fighter stay longer as a champion, I could see it happen with some fighters. They concern very much don't lose, and then the fights, the way they fight, became a little bit. So they do the sufficient, they do enough to win the fight, win. the round. So round by round, this boring thing. Take down in the end to score points. Make sure that you're gonna win the the round, but it's not kind of engagement that people are gonna try to, you know, knock down the opponent or, or submit them. But still have some good fightings doing that. So uh, that's it. I think the difference more about that. I I live the time when people the fighters were already learning, trying to learn everything. So, but maybe one of the big differences that at my time, every fighter came from the discipline, and they try to make them better in the different kind of comparing striker. He came from suppose karate or boxing or Muay Thai. They try to learn on the ground. So nowadays you can see that some fighters they grew up. I mean they study everything together. They're not striking. They're not strikers. They're not grapplers. They do everything from the beginning. If doesn't have belts in MMA, but I could compare like since the white belt to the black belt, they're gonna do everything same time. It's not the kind of it's not the fact that they're gonna train a striking game or a grappling game, and then later they're gonna try to study a different discipline. Strikers, they would try to improve the grappling, and the grapplers they would try to improve their striking game. So that's the biggest difference I see in the fighters, some fighters nowadays.
Is there any fighter now, active fighter right now, who really, you said earlier that you still follow it only if the fight is interesting? Is there any fighter that you follow or you always want to watch right now?
Yeah, title shots. I like to watch. I like very much the Russian Peter Yan. Uh, Nurmagomedov was amazing. Was the when he retired, he was the best for pound. Charles Oliveira, I like to watch him. These fighters, they the kind of fighters that they go to smash the opponent. They kind of go through. So what else? I think all champions are they doing great till now.
Do you buy that Nurmagomedov is retired, or do you expect him to come back?
Excuse me?
Are you buying the retirement thing with Nurmagomedov? If he is gonna stay retired, or is he coming back, or there's a chance he will come back?
I wish he can come. He should come back. I love to watch his fights. He's very good in everything he does. His striking game. He improved a lot his striking game. Takedown, amazing takedowns, and his ground game was very good, high level as well. So he was doing everything in high level. So that's why. And the most important for a fighter, that to become a champion, that I believe not everybody understand that, is to be unpredictable. And Nurmagomedov, he was very unpredictable. You never know what he's gonna do. So that's important. And, make the fight more interesting for the fans and for the audience. So that's what I like. I like to watch fighters that will surprise everybody, including the opponents, with moves, different moves. So that's the way I try to do it at my time. be, unpredictable.
All right, Vince, back to you.
Okay, Murilo, since the Olympics are going on right now, it's ongoing, and your country hosted the Olympics 5 years ago. So, for example, let's say jiu-jitsu was an Olympic sport. How many gold medals do you think Brazil would win?
So if it was the IBJJF rules, like the ordinary rules of
Yes.
jiu-jitsu that we play in Brazil, with gi, I believe Brazil will take at least 7% of the medals, the gold medals. I mean, the gold medals. 70 to 80%. Maybe we're going to lose some disciplines, but Brazil is still the best in the jiu-jitsu rules. Grappling is a little bit different. So, uh, I mean, no gi grappling, it's a little bit different. So, some tournaments, they have different rules, but even that, the Brazilians will do great, I believe.
This question is connected to what Brian asked earlier. So his question earlier to you was if there's any active MMA fighter that you follow. My question is there any active MMA fighter who reminds you of you when you used to fight, who had both striking and a ground game?
Yeah, I think maybe the one that reminded me, it was Demian Maia. Actually, he looks a lot like me. Uh, but, we both could strike and we had a good, you know, ground game. Uh, Charles Oliveira, he has the same, striking game and ground game, but he's more uh, from Muay Thai. I was more about boxing. So that's why I think Damien was the one that was closest. But Damien is most retiring right now. For the new guys, I don't know. I didn't see anyone that remind me.
Okay, there are. I'm sure you've noticed there are MMA fighters who are crossing over to boxing and having fights with professional boxers. And you yourself, you're a practitioner of boxing. You're also a fan of boxing. If that happened during your time, Murillo, would you also consider crossing over to boxing and possibly having one or two fights with professional boxers?
Yeah, if I felt myself that it was good enough to do it and I could win, I would do it 100%. But if it's a different game. It'll be interesting. I fought amateur boxing fight already, but a different level. I don't know if I could boxing as a professional high level, but I would like to do it 100%. So I think I had a good boxing level and when I was a professional, but to fight against a professional, I don't know if you know, I really don't know. But I would love to do it. I like challenges, so it would be a big challenge for me.
You've you fought in the UFC and you won a title. Was there anyone during your time? Was there anyone you were interested in fighting, but unfortunately it didn't happen, or you weren't able to fight the guy?
Yeah, I like to fight. When I was in Pride, I liked the idea to fight the Sakuraba because I believe Sakuraba was very good fighter, well-rounded. So he was a good striker. He was a good grappler, like me. So same division. I believe we could make a very interesting fight for the fans, but it didn't happen, fortunately.
Okay, please correct me if I'm wrong, Murilo. Before you left the UFC, your last title defense was against Matt Lindland, and there were some issues with the contract after the fight. And please correct me if I'm wrong. After the fight, you received the contract wherein the price which was much lower than what you expected.
Yes. Before the fight, I had an infection on my finger, and I couldn't train well because of that. And I tried to. It will be my last fight in my contract, and I tried to renew my contract before the fight, but the UFC didn't want to. They didn't accept that. So, and then I won the fight with all the controversial, you know. So I submitted Matt Linden one time, and the referee sent me restart the fight. He said the fight. And then I had to keep fighting, and then I submit him again. So it was very controversial and very frustration situation. So then they gave me an offer, a good offer, and I had the right to look around the market. I did. And when I returned to accept the offer they made, they dropped the offer to the same price, my last fight against Matt Lindgren. So then I believe it was a disrespectful offer because I had done a lot. I had, put very good performance on the mat, and especially the last at the time that I had to submit my opponent twice. I couldn't accept anything, but something better than that. It was my purse at the time. Anyway, and then I left. That's what happened.
And then you moved over to Pride. So were there any feelers or signs from the UFC that they would like you to come back? Was there any offer sent to you years after?
No, I didn't go straight to Pride.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I didn't have at the time. Uh, I was in an unemployment fighter. I just didn't accept the offer. I thought uh, it was nice from them to offer the same purse I received in my last fight, and then I just quit. I just left the show, and then I signed the Pride next year. It was 2002. I signed with Pride 2003 for the Grand Prix, middleweight Grand Prix.
What would it have?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mario. Sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead, please. I finished. Go ahead.
What would it have meant to you? Because there have been other Brazilian MMA fighters after you who were able to defend their titles in Brazil, like Jose Aldo and others. What would it have meant for you if you were given an opportunity to defend your middleweight title in Brazil?
It would be awesome fighting Brazil because we used to deal with the audience. So the audience outside Brazil fighting Americans in the US always against us. But we used to deal with that, it was something that we could deal with, we could handle. So, but fighting with the a whole audience on your side, you'll be great. Fighting your own country after long time fighting, abroad, fighting outside country, different countries. So if I would be able to defend the title in Brazil, it would be, a dream come true.
Have you considered, well, since your retirement, Murilo, have you considered coaching or training other young Brazilian MMA fighters, or not even Brazilian, but MMA fighters? Have there been offers for you to coach or train?
Yeah, I've been doing this my whole life, coaching, fighting. So I've been coaching a lot. But uh, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, I kind of retired from the to be a professional coach. So I'm not coaching anymore. Uh, I kind of engage in my business and martial arts in general. I have a association named Brazilian Top Team that we have affiliates around the world. So my goal is develop my business and improve my team, make my teammates better. So that's my goal right now. We still have a we still have a professional team, but one of my students that is teaching the team right now, I kind of help giving advice. I'm more advisor than anything else nowadays. Sometimes I'm teacher classes for them, for the pro, from Brazilian top team, but it's not, you know, uh, not every day. It's kind of more helping with when I see something that I could help them to improve, correct some positions, uh, talk about strategies, So, but I'm not every day working with them. So I kind of having more fun nowadays than, you know, I'm not obliged to be every day on the mat, teaching, traveling with the fighters, So coach, a professional coach, uh, the agenda, their agenda, the schedule, his life schedule will be depending on which fights the fighters will have, So I lived this life for a long time as a fighter, as a coach, but 2 3 years ago I kind of quit. Now I'm teaching kids, I'm teaching private classes, I travel around to give workshops, teach workshops to my, affiliates. Uh, but I'm not coaching as a professional anymore.
When I was searching for Brazilian top team on Instagram, I saw a lot of Brazilian top team gyms in the US and some in other countries. Before the pandemic started, have you visited some of these Brazilian top team gyms in the US or in other countries?
Yeah, I used to go every year. I visit them. So sometimes I can, I go. I cannot go every year because a lot of academies. So I go each 2 years, but I go the most I can. During the pandemic time, so I was almost 1 year and a half. I was in Brazil because of the pandemic. I didn't feel comfortable to travel. And then last month, it was my first trip after the pandemic started. And it was awesome. I went to California to visit my affiliate there in Orange County. And then I went to Florida and visit some Brazilian top team academies there as well. So I was super glad to see that the students already returned to training, and kids are attending the classes. I think is the most important. Uh, Jiu-jitsu right now is very important for kids. So kids staying home is not good. So kids need to exercise, to go out, to attend the classes in the school, attend the classes in jiu-jitsu school. So it's not good at all for kids stay closed inside their houses, afraid to the disease. And the risk is, I believe, it's already proven that the risk of the COVID for kids is very small. It's very small. So the damage for their mind is really big if they still, living this kind of life. I'm afraid of the disease inside home, closed inside home, not attending the schools. So, but thanks God, life is going back to normal around the world. Even my country, Brazil, I still have problems. The vaccination still very slow here, but life is back into the normal step by step. What is good, especially for the kids.
Well, hopefully someday, Murillo, there can be a Brazilian top team gym here in the Philippines.
Yes, it would be great. It would be great. I heard very, very good things about Philippines. It's a beautiful country with a lot of islands, right?
Yes.
And so one day it will be a pleasure to have a gym there or even to visit the country.
All right. Brian?
Okay, so sir, speaking about the Philippines, I'm gonna ask Murillo about Manny Pacquiao. I'm sure you're also follow. Are you following Manny Pacquiao also, Murillo?
Yes, many years. I'm a big fan of Pacquiao. It's
Okay,
amazing boxing, super aggressive. So this Pacquiao is he fights the way I believe all fighters should do, straight to the point, boom. So that's why I'm a big fan of him.
okay. So would I dare ask who you're gonna root for when he faces Errol Spence on August 21?
Say it again. I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
He's set to face Errol Spence a few weeks from now. What's your forecast on that between Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence?
I don't know his opponents. I really,
You
it's
don't
hard to
know.
say. But I was gonna pick Manny.
All right.
So I doesn't matter who they're gonna fight. I pick Manny Pacquiao.
Okay. So, okay, this is an issue I've been asking everybody about Manny Pacquiao. Does age? What can you say about his age right now? There are people asking if this may be one of his last few fights. But if you have been following him, what is your assessment? Does Manny Pacquiao still have what it takes inside to go a couple of more fights?
Uh, have been following Manny Pacquiao for many years, so I believe he has some. He's not young anymore, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about his age. How
He's
old
uh,
is he?
he's 42.
42. Okay, 42. Yeah, I believe he's in the limit there. So when I was fighting till 39, 40, my condition was very good. But after that, I felt my body changed a little bit. But it was myself. I cannot tell exactly about another fighter. But I believe Manny Pacquiao has, a lot of skills that he, you know save energy. You know, fighters with a lot of skills, they can save energy. They don't need to spend too much strength to fight because they have skills. So that's why I believe Pacquiao can go, you know, a little bit further than the other fighters because of his skills. Uh, but fighting, I don't know how old is his opponent, but
Younger, 30s, I think. Let me check.
30,
I think of around
30, 31. Murilo. He's about
31,
31.
31,
31.
31.
He's 31.
yeah, is 10 years younger, so it's a big difference. But I believe Pacquiao can make it. You know, he can make it well. He can do it. But 42, he can go not forever. Fighters, you know, it's difficult for fighters to retire. To you know, so, but each one they know. You know, they will know their own time. So it's hard to tell. When I was 40, 40 something, some friend of mine, they was, hey, man, when are you gonna retire? I got nervous when I'm gonna fight. I said, man, I want to fight. I like to fight. I'm doing well, so let me fight. So, you know, you cannot tell the fighter when he must feel it by itself, by themselves, by himself, whatever, you know. It's hard to tell them. It's a very personal thing. So as long the fighter is having pleasure on the ring or on the cage, whatever, or he can fight with certain level, you know, not getting beaten, badly beaten every fight, so they able to keep fighting. But if there is a, you know, if there is a point that the fighter is being, you know, getting hurt every fight is not healthy. So then they have to stop. Then it would be the uh, right thing to do to give them, you know, advice to stop fighting because then it's not good for their own health. That's all I think. But I believe Pacquiao can go many more years. I'd love to see his fights.
Yes. Okay, a little bit tied up to that. You've had your share of injuries before you eventually called it quits. Right now, there are a lot of mixed martial arts fighters like Conor McGregor, Uriah Hall, Chris Weidman. They've had they suffered very serious injuries. What is the impact of a very serious injury on a fighter?
Man, I got lucky. I never had any heart injury in my career. So I had a problem with my elbow. It was 2006. I was 4 years old, and it hurt a lot. So I had to to do a surgery my elbow to clean it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a, you know, very painful when I was sparring, when I was training, and one of my fights, my camp was very the first. It was the first fight for the Grand Prix in 2006, middleweight Grand Prix in Pride. My first fight. I had so much pain in my elbow that I thought I would retire if it, you know, because it was so painful that, you know, I didn't have pleasure during my training camp because of a lot of pain. But then after the surgery, I made some therapy and, you know, I couldn't recover my arm. But talking about these fighters, you said that they had injury, the leg broke, right?
Right,
Because of
they're
kicks,
broken. Yeah, broken.
broken leg. So I believe they're going to recover.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how confident they will be to kick again the same way. But I believe it's hard for me to because I'm not a kicker. You know, I don't used to kick. I used to only to block kicks and take people down when they kick me. It's a different style I used to do, but it proved that it can happen. Have been happen with a lot of fighters, more than one. Anderson, I think, was the first I saw, and then it happened with even to Chris Weidman that was the fighter that was fighting Anderson. It was crazy, the leg, break so so hard. It's crazy, but I believe they can recover well, and keep fighting.
But as far as fighting like their old selves, do you see that a difference in them when they return, if and when they return?
I'm sorry, Brian. Could you repeat, please?
Assuming they do return, do you feel that they will be a totally different fighter from who they were before?
No, I don't think so. I think they would keep fighting well. Maybe they won't kick the same way. Maybe the only difference, maybe they'll be a little bit insecure to kick. But the fact is that they're gonna put a metal, in the leg and won't break again. That's, I think they'll recover, but maybe take longer to recover the confidence to kick again.
Thank you. Vince, back to you.
Back to Murillo, back to Manny Pacquiao a bit. How do you think he would do in MMA as a striker?
Yeah, as a striker, he will be great. But the fact is that MMA, you must know how to use his skills, but don't become a easy. I mean, easy opponents. So if you know only one discipline nowadays, it'll be super hard because people wouldn't boxing against Pacquiao. They would take him down straight. All fighters. But his striker would be great if he knows a little bit of grappling and takedowns, defense. He will do well. But I don't believe in only fighters that know only one discipline. They won't go. They won't go. You know, they won't go further at all in the career. I mean, they won't go to the top. To go to the top, you must study all disciplines. And you see the best fighters nowadays. They have different coaches. They have all of them. They have a jiu-jitsu coach and a wrestling coach and striking coach. That's what I have been noticed, and I believe is the right thing to do.
Joe Rogan said before, Murillo, that he thinks, his opinion, he thinks that weight cutting should be abolished or done away with. What are your thoughts on that? And did you have any, when you were fighting, did you have any problems, encounter any problems making weight?
No, I never had any problem cutting weight. I believe the guys they exaggerate. I mean, some guys they want to cut 10 kilos, like 20 pounds to fight. They believe that the difference of weight is gonna make them win the fight. It's not the case, in my opinion. Your skills and your body be completely health, that's gonna make your, you have a better performance, not the difference of weight. So not the strength that make the difference. So I think they should maybe they should put a limit the day of the fight, how much they could wait the day of the fight. So because they made the fighters, they make the weight one day before, but the next day they're going to be heavier, right? So that's why they cut weight to be heavier the next day. So if you create a limit that they cannot pass the limit to the top, I mean, to make it easier maybe and keep them healthy. So I know some cases that the fight passed away cutting weight. I mean, I think it happened more than the fighter passed away during the fight. So we don't have, I remember maybe one or two cases of fighters that passed away fighting, but there are more cases that fighters pass away cutting weight inside the sauna, or they feel sick and they're just fat, and there's some. So it's already proven that's not healthy if you exaggerate. So that's why my concern about it.
So you're saying if when they make the weight, when they make the weight, they'll eat and drink plenty of fluids after. So you're saying is there's a limit for their weight gain after they make weight?
Yeah, it should. I
Yeah.
believe it should have. I think some commissions in US they deal with that to because it doesn't make sense, the
Yeah.
fighters lose 20 pounds. They concerned to lose 20 pounds. It's not healthy at all. It's not healthy. So they have to concern to make themselves improve their skills during the camps. Of course, they're going to cut weight. Everybody cuts. If you don't do it, you'll be, give the opponent advantage. But cannot be exaggerated.
Okay, we have a few minutes left, Murilo. And again, we thank you in advance for coming on the program. My last question, though, is looking back at your career, do you have any regrets? You think you've left it all already in the octagon?
Yeah, no regrets. I think we learn with our mistakes. Life is like that, you do some mistakes, but you try to learn. But I had a adventure life fighting in the octagon, in the rings. So when I step on the, getting the cage of the ring, I left everything inside. So I try to push. If you watch my fights, you see I will push the fight the way I could. I always try to go through and submit or knock my opponents down. So I did my best. So, and I had no regrets. I enjoy a lot. I do everything I can.
Okay, with that said, obrigada, Murilo. Thank you very much for your time. Well, we know you're a very busy man, and we thank you for taking time out to come on as a guest. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the invitation. My pleasure. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Brian. It's awesome to speak to you guys.
Brian?
Yeah, well, thank you again, Murilo, for the informative and colorful chat. I really had a lot of information. I have a lot of things to write again. Thanks to you. Thanks also, Vince.
All right.
Thank you,
And
guys.
that ends another episode of Sports for All. Thank you very much to Murilo Bustamante, former UFC middleweight champion. Thank you, Murilo, and stay
Thank you,
safe.
guys.
Thank you.
You
Stay
too.
safe.
Thank you.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.